Hi guys. Um, I'm sitting here pushing in the pins for Mary Mack for the customer. I'll upload this on YouTube when I'm finished. Just talking with you about this and see what I'm doing. I had it on my lap so you can't see it. This is the wonderful frame we picked for Mary Mack that I said, I had a client that isn't stitching anymore and she really wanted this. So I got someone to help, yes, for making noises even though I've turned it off because you know me guys. I'm upstairs so you may hear some clitter clatter. I don't think we have any squeaky toys, so I don't think that Caleb's going to be squeaking. But I will go over the pin mounting on I've got several pieces that get the frame. And I'll go over the steps with that. But I really wanted to get Mary Mack out to the client. She's been waiting. But I don't know if you can see on the edges, what you do is once you decide how big you want your molding for your piece, you then measure out what your allowance is going to be, and you count out the threads so it's even on both sides. I use quilting thread to stitch along the line so I know when I pull it over my foam core, which this is acid free, which means it's covered with an acid free paper. It's not the shiny kind. And then what you do is you start on the edges. When I first started doing the pin mounting, I was taught to start in the middle, and you would get out to the edge, and all of a sudden you got extra fabric. So what you do is if you can see, I have these pins on each corner that are just holding the corners together. And then you start with one side, like you would start here and put about a half an inch of silk brass pins, P-I-N-S, into there, and you need to hold your hands while you're doing it, because see, like as I'm pushing it, you leave your hands there too, because your fingers, so you can feel if you get it in there wonky, because you don't want the pins to come to stick out on either side of the foam core. You want them to go in the middle. I do pin mounting instead of lacing. I can lace, but living in the South, we get a lot of moisture, and it can make the piece get saggy because the fabric will absorb the humidity no matter what you do, even if you're in a controlled environment. So I just find pin mounting is a lot more stable. But what I'm doing, you need to get yourself a little chopstick. You can do that. You can use thimbles. I find chopsticks work the best. I use them for a lot of my finishing techniques for stuffing and other things. So I have like a billion of them downstairs. I buy them in bulk. Not right now because I'm not teaching finishing or teaching that much. I'm just always in my studio dyeing fabric and doing other things like that and swirling around down there. One day I'll get it clean. But what I did is once I counted out how far, like I measured out and got it even and figured out how much I wanted away from the actual stitching, I made it even. I counted out the threads, and I think I ended up with, I think it was 24. Like I counted I counted them as 2, 4, 6, 8, and did up to 24. And then I marked it, and then I took the quilting thread and I stitched, I don't know if you can see between the pins, the quilting thread that I stitched in there in a straight line to go across there to mark where I need to pull it over the foam core to put the pins in. Now, you put your pins in pretty close. I don't remember if we stitched this on 36 or 40 count, but you pretty much do it every 2 to 4 linen threads. You have a pin in it. A lot of people they will pull the thread out after they have pin mounted it. I leave mine in because I use a quilting thread and it's covered, and I don't use reds that often. I use colors that won't leach as much, but I leave mine in because it's a pain in the butt to try to remove those threads once you've pin mounted it. But like I said, I'm just sitting here pushing the pins in. Yes, I know you're enjoying watching me do this. But I will show you what it's going to look like inserted, hopefully tomorrow or Wednesday. I'm going to take it to the framer. If there were mine, I have, you can get these tools that they have in the framing business that will either shoot, they look like staples, but they only go so far into the wood. It only shoots them that far in. You can get one of those and use that when if you want to frame yourself. And you put this down inside the frame, which I'm going to show you, and then you put another piece of cut foam core over top of that. I don't use glass, and this client didn't want to use that. Well, anyway, to end what I was telling you is you use I know the contraption has a name, but it shoots these pieces of metal that look like staples, but they only push them in halfway, so it will hold your piece in place. I have a glazer gun, which you have to be really old to understand what that is. It used to be when you had a pane glass window or had glass in something, it didn't come all put together like you have now. You would get the glass and you would put it inside a cutout area, just like it is on a frame. You would insert the glass, and they have these things called glazer points, which are diamonds. And you have a contraption, a glazer point gun that it has a hole, like it looks like a handle. I'll show you mine later, not this video, but I'll do it when I do my other ones and show you. But it's on a piece of wood, and it comes up and you press down on it and it shoots the diamonds out and it keeps it in place. And that's what you would used to do with the glazer gun, is you would put your glass into the encased area, and you would take your glazer gun and you would shoot the diamond in, and you would get the glass in place, and then you would come back with it's not called caulk, but it's like a caulk. You would come and cover up the area where the wood would be over the glass, and you would run your finger down it, and then you would let it dry, and then you would paint it. And that's how you replace glass with the glazer point gun. You would keep it in place there. And my gun has gone through 3 generations. It was my grandfather's gun. He was a carpenter. He used to do coal mining, but he was a carpenter, and he had that gun. And then my dad had the glazer point gun when he was doing his woodworking. And then I trained, because they were cabinet makers, I trained in my dad's woodwork shop, and I got that tool. And so I use that instead of the tool that you can purchase to do framing. So I do old school. And again, like going back to, I finished that part. I'm trying to not be as squirrely this time. But what I did, I don't like to put glass on my pieces. Because a lot of times, I don't stitch a lot of personal things, but when I would stitch models, because if you do a trunk show or anything, it puts a lot of weight on it, and I just don't do glass because it can break. I also, even when you're using a museum glass, I just think it distorts what you're looking at. Now, if you live somewhere that you've got a lot of dirt, like I have a friend of mine that lives on a dairy farm, and they're in and out of the house a lot, so they've got a lot of dust and dirt. If you're in a high traffic area, I can understand doing that. Some of my 17th century reversible stitched items, some of them that have silk and I'm a little more attached to, I will put glass over it, but you got to put spacers in before you put the glass, and it weighs it down, and I think it distorts what you're looking at. So I'm not a huge fan. Plus, I don't care what kind of glass you use. It traps gases in between that, and it can help cause issues with your needlework and discoloration. But I have gone through, as you can see, and I've pressed the pens down. So when I rub my finger over here, there aren't any that are jumping out. Like actually right here, there's a few jumping out. So I'm just going to take my handy dandy chopstick and press them down some more. I was lucky this time. None of them went in collywog. So they didn't pop out to the front of the back. As you can see, none of them are whoop. I lied, I have one that's pressing a little bit here. That means that it didn't go in totally straight. Let me see if I can back it out. Yes, I can. I just did. And I'm putting it back in and putting it in straighter so you don't see it poking through. Now, there's two things you can do after this. I'm really lazy. You want to miter your corners. So you take your corner and you fold it up, because this is going to keep it straight. Oh, it'll keep it tight inside of when you frame it. But a lot of people will stitch that miter. I'm lazy. I take the pen that I have in the corner that holds it in place and I skim it. I'm going to skim it through the fabric and catch the back of the foam core and just put it in. I'm going to skim it in there, and it's just going to hold that in place, and it's going to stay in there and keep that from flapping around when I take it to the framer and we put it in place. And I'm putting it in so when she's going to put another piece of foam core over this to layer it and to hold it into place in the frame, and then we're going to put a covering over the back of that. Now, I sometimes will put another piece of foam core when I'm doing my own framing, but I don't always do that. I'm lazy. But this is going to a customer, so I want it to look a lot more professional. So I'm going to take it back over to Kimberly. I've done the pin mounting, and I hope to, by at least Wednesday, I'm going to take this over, and we're going to put it in the frame. She's going to put a piece of foam core over top of it and use her gun and hold it into place so it will be ready to go. And then she's going to get some nice, wonderful paper and use double-sided tape, acid-free, of course. And she'll cover the back so that it's called a dust cover, so you won't get dust and other things caught on the back. And then she'll put the hanging that, I don't know if she'll put in, this is a small piece, so she may center and put one of those picture framers that are, there's a name for it, I'll have to look it up, sorry guys, but it's just a strip with sawtooths on it so you can hang it on the wall. Or she may use the screw-in eyes and take wire and run across it and use picture wire. I'm not sure which one she's going to do. I just lost I found it. When I do mine, I really don't like those ones that you nail in the back that are just on the top with the sawtooths, the picture framers. I don't like those. I always end up using the small eyelet screws. It's a round circle. I'll show you guys that too when I do my other ones. I just wanted to get this one up because I talked about it in my most recent YouTube, and since I wanted to get this to the client, I wanted to just show you what I've done and what it looks like before it goes in. And it's just wonderful. I love this frame with it. We had looked at a larger one. It was going to make it way too expensive. I would have preferred the larger one, but I really think this works. I mean, it just totally matches. It's a mega molding. It's made in Italy. It's got, I don't know if you guys can see or not, but it looks like some distressing in the wood, and it's got a red-brown coloring underneath with a black over top of it. It's very plain, but it really goes with this perfectly. And so I've inserted it in here. As you can see, the corners are down. So when I take it over to Kimberly, she's gonna cut another piece of foam core, and she's gonna put that in there, and she's going to put the staples in there, and it's going to hold that in place. And then, like I said, we're going to put double-sided tape on there, and we're going to cover that, and then take the paper and put it over it, so the dust cover will cover that up. And this is going to be ready to be sent to the client, and it should be shipping out Wednesday or Thursday, depending on when I can get over to Kimberly's and then have all the padding and send it to her. But I'm going to end up probably still having to stitch this. I'm so in love with this. I've always liked it. I've even got the fabric. I got the fabric cut, and I have the pattern. I copied, I purchased a pattern, but since I can't redo my own patterns and I'm using someone else's, and replacing them sometimes is impossible, I make a working copy, and you can do that, but you need to destroy it. You can't sell it. You can't share it. I just do that because I'm really rough with my stuff. I throw it in things. I'll show you my bag of how I think you've already seen how my stuff looks when I stitch. But yes, I did not stitch this. We had a model stitcher stitch it for us because I haven't had time. But this is Mary Mack, and she's just ready to go. And I think this is just too stinking cute, and I'm going to have one on my wall. And this is the new color. It's Common House Sparrow that I had made up, because you can't get the birds of a feather anymore that this was originally stitched on. So I came up with this color and did this, and it's just an absolutely stellar color. It is so prim. It's just great. This just turned out wonderful, if I must say so myself. And then one other thing I'm gonna show you guys. I talked to you about how I am so bratty about not sticking to patterns and just changing things and doing anything. And I told you about my first time that I had done that. I had just started designing and being a teacher, and we had Mary Cox come in and all of that. I told you about the needle roll, Mary's needle roll. I think it's a needle roll purse. Anyway, I couldn't find the pattern. I don't know if I sold it or gave it away, but this is what I redesigned her whole piece. So as you can see, I have a much more cutesy looking Mary with a little sheep. I even changed the border on the inside. I redesigned all of that, where we have Mary and her sheep. And then I did the top of this so it matches, the border matches. And then what Mary taught us was, after we stitched it, she came in, and this is like a purse, and she taught us how to do the purse. I think we machine sewed some of this, and we sewed the top of the purse that goes on this needle roll. We made the cording, put a little gusset in it, and then we used this lovely silk ribbon. We did a little roll that's all sewn up, and we have pins in the end to make them puffy. We filled it with wool. It doesn't have any lizard litter in it or anything. And then you roll this up, and these ribbons, because we made these little oh God, I don't know what you would call them. Anyway, we did these little loops so the ribbons can go in there and you can tie it off. I'll have to look up what stitch we used, because what we did is we went 3 or 4 times and made the loops the same size, and then we came back and did a stitch over it so it would cover it. It's like a white work stitch, but we went and covered that. so it would be a loop and it wouldn't move around. And then these ribbons, if you wanted to, you could put them in there and then tie it up and keep it like that. And so you would have your little purse with your needle roll hanging from it. And see, her Mary looked a lot like this Mary Mack. It was this Mary with sheep that was standing there with her hair all sticking out and very frayed. So I just thought I needed something a little more feminine or whatever looking. It just didn't speak to me, so I changed it all up. But her design matched, because this fabric came with it, and her design matched this fabric much better. Because see, you can see the black on that coloring. So the whole thing was done, I think, in black. I don't think there was other colors to it, but I added color. And this is the box that we lined that went into it. And oh yes, look at the treasures. This is a box that you could have bought extra with the kit when Mary taught this. And this is just another wonderful shaker box. I forgot who she had made these. But anyway, you could purchase the box separate. And then we learned how to line a shaker box, which is very easy. You just measure up your edges. And, well, first you trace the bottom. I don't think I can pull this out. No, I'm not going to do it. But you would trace the bottom, and you cut a piece of cotton mat board, and you make sure that it flutters as it goes in. You make sure it's the right shape, and it flutters in. Like when you put it in, you don't have to push it. It just sort of floats down. Then you cut some cotton batting, whatever many layers you want it to puff out. And then you get the fabric and you cut it with a seam allowance around it, and you do basting stitch and you pull it, and then you lace that. And then the sides, what we did is we measured the how tall the box was, and then you shorted it about 1/8 to 1/4 inch, and you cut a piece of heavyweight iron-on interfacing, and you iron it onto your fabrics. That makes it stiff, and you make it where it's overlapped. When you do the circumference, you have an overlapping of a couple inches. So you have one end that you turn under, and you can either press it or you can stitch it down, stitch it so it'll stay in place. And as you can see here, let me see if I think you can see where, because I had, oh my dear, stop guys. See, this is live, whatever. But you hand sew it, but it overlaps that, and then you put that inside of there, and you put your sides in first, and then you push your bottom in there, and then you've got a covered box. Inside of your box is covered. And the little treasures that I have in this box, I mean, I have stuff everywhere. It's going to be horrible when I pass. I have one of these, I've got several of these mother of pearl fish, which a lot of people think that they come from the Victorian times, and it's amazing. We can't cut mother of pearl this thin and etch on it like they could have hundreds of years ago, which amazes me because we have better technology, supposedly better technology. But anyway, these little creatures and some other mother of pearl items were found in women's sewing boxes. And people thought they were thread winders. Some people did use them as thread winders. But really what they were, women, well, gentry in general, did not use money or touch it. They had a accountant, and at the first of the year you would get your money allotment and you would pay off everyone, and you would either run tabs, or if you of a certain, like women or people of a certain class didn't touch money, but they would have these items, and if you find any that have initials on them, they're even worth more. But they would use these as tokens, and they would take them to whomever and give it to them, and that meant that they owed them money. So when they got their money dispersed to them, they would trade it off and get back their tokens, and they would start over. And so women would put them in their sewing boxes and other things because, like I said, they weren't allowed to have money. So it was sort of one of those hidden things that women and other people did for being able to trade and get around the rules. So I'm dropping him back in there. Now this is, I don't know if it's, I think it's made out of a whalebone. I'm not sure what kind of bone this, or bone or ivory this is, but this is called a fetish. I got this off, it's a whale. You can see his mouth there, and then his tail sort of scoops up. And I got this off of eBay a billion years ago, but this is an Indian fetish. And a fetish is a creature that you usually get a fetish that's connected to you spiritually. It's your spirit, or it's a creature that will give you luck or look after you. And all different tribes and different groups have different meanings for their animals. But I had found this on an eBay auction a billion years ago and got it at a really good price. And I just thought it was just really cool. So it sits in this box doing nothing when I never bring them out. And then I'm a love collecting mother of pearl buttons. I have a billion, and I might not even be exaggerating, but these buttons, I mean, I just love getting, used to be you could buy pounds of buttons and go through them, and now people realize that they're worth money. We've gone through a bunch of them, that they're harder and harder to find, but I just love it. I used to love to just buy 5 pounds of buttons and just sit there and sort them. But these, again, are mother of pearl buttons. Here's another mother of pearl button I have. I mean, we could go through all of them. And then I have this bobby pin of these rings. These are not plastic rings. These are actually rings that are made out of either ivory or bone. And they were used in different types of ways of finishing clothing for women. Any type of clothing, but I have a safety pin with those. And then this is a treasure beyond treasures. My Nana, my mother's grandmother, so it would be my great-grandmother. I don't remember the perfume that was in this, but she would get the perfume, and it came in this container, and I haven't cleaned it up, but it's sterling silver that's on this bottle. And I can still open it and smell my Nana. Still smells like her. It's very faint now. It used to be a lot stronger. But every time she bought a new bottle of perfume, it came in this bottle with these cherubs on it. And there is no marking on the bottom of this that tells me what it is. And I can't read. I have to look. But it came from, I know she used to buy it from France, but isn't that just way so cool that they would put such detail in the perfume. I mean, we have gone to the point where we have no detail in everything. Everything is mass produced. It's sleek. But she would get this perfume, and each time she would get it, it would come in this type of bottle. I just find that amazing. And it was so, the perfumers, I can't say that word. The people that make the perfume from France, people that are really, really good at doing it, they would use the whale fat and bind it together, and you wouldn't have to spray yourself down, and it didn't have alcohol in it. So this would last forever. But when she passed away when I was very small, my grandmother kept one of these and gave it to me because I used to love the way my Nana smelled. And so I treasure this. I don't have it out. I don't want it to get broken. So it stays in my little box. But then once again, I have all of these buttons. I mean, look at this. This is so cool. This is a mother of pearl. And whatever shell that they did this from had different colorings. So when they were grinding this down and etching it, they made it where it was one color on one side and ground it down, so you had the white on the other. But this is not manufactured made. I mean, it's not like they pressed this. This is out of real mother of pearl. It's just amazing. This is another one. I'm not sure if this is mother of pearl or if this is celluloid. It's heavier than a celluloid, but that was in this whole grouping of items. Oh, I have one here. When I was telling you guys, when I do my own framing, I use these eye hooks, and I will measure down, and this screws into the frame. I have no idea why this, oh, I've got two of them. I have no idea why they're in here. Maybe they're for my next framing piece. But these, you can get these at the hardware store. I think they're 1/4 inch, but I put them in the back, and then I run picture wire on them, and you measure down. I forgot what the dimensions are. I think it's like a third. Like, I would probably, if I were going to do this for myself to hang up, I would measure down a third of the way, which is probably somewhere around here is where I would put these little guys. I would stick it in the middle here and screw it in, and then I would run the picture wire through it, cut it, and then wind it back on itself, and then it would hang. And you cut your wire so it would be just right at the edge of where the frame is, or just under it, so it'll hang on the wall. Then you put little feet on here so it will make it stay on the wall better. But just, isn't that cool that I have these here so I could show you what they look like? And you can buy them in little bags, or you can go, when you go into like Home Depot or something like that, they have little drawers that have these items. And I think they're the 1/4 inch ones. But you can get these little guys, and if you want to do your own framing, and that's what I use with framing wire. But then I've got quite a few of these. Oh shoot, the name's eluding me. That have the loops on them for buttons, and these are great. These will be used more on a men's shirt. And the way they are, there's some of these, if you get them, there's a metal, let's see if I got one on here. Yeah, I do, I have one. There's a metal, see there's a little metal hook that's on the shank. It's a shank button, that's what came to me. You have this little metal hook that's on there. So it would hook to another, like you would have a straight piece of wire that's got ends on it, that's got little balls on each end. So once you put the shank and this metal piece through your buttonhole, and then you would put a straight piece of metal in there that has balls on each end so you won't stick yourself. And you can see there's a little hook on this, maybe you can see it, but there's a little hook on there that's where you would slip your straight piece in, so your button would stay in the hole. You know, you would put it through the hole there, and then you would button over it and use it. So then these would all be taken off of your clothing before they were cleaned, so you wouldn't mess up your buttons. Especially menswear, some like really fancy women's clothing, if it buttoned up, you would have this, like this is a shank. So it would have some way that you would put that on the clothing item, but it would have an attachment that's some way of attaching it like this one, so that you could remove it when you clean it. And they didn't clean their clothing or themselves as much as we do. They didn't have washing machines. They would wash things by hand, but when the help or yourself, you would all your buttons and everything would come off your clothing before you would clean it. And the other thing, the terms on pins and needles, literally people put their clothing on with pins and they would get sewn into them, and they would stay, like if you've watched Victorian aged clothing, you know, series and stuff, and the people wear the same clothing over and over again. They're not lazy. Those people actually did, like, they would have a skirt and they would have several jackets that would go with it, but you would stay in your clothing for days. And they didn't bathe as much as we bathe, but they were, and you would only have, like, depending on your status and how much money, you would only have several outfits. and you would just intermix them, and like your skirts would be pinned into you. Women weren't allowed to have pockets, so that's why you see those pockets that some people have designed. You would tie a waist pocket, you would tie that around, and that would go underneath between your undergarments and your skirt, so you could keep items that you were dear to you in there, because women weren't supposed to have money. They weren't supposed to carry anything around, so you technically really didn't need a pocket. So to get around that, you would have those pockets, and that's why the women would quilt them and decorate them, so no one really questioned them having them. And if you were like the head of the household in a house, you were allowed to have a pocket, because you would have the keys to everything, because you had access to everything if you were running the house. I'm just sitting here picking up my mother of pearl pens. I mean, needles, buttons, needles, whatever. Oh, I found another mother of pearl that someone would think that is a thread winder, and this looks more like one than the fish does. But again, this is a marker, and this would be what you would use mostly in the Victorian times. I'm not sure how much earlier than that they did, but you would use this to give to someone that you owed them money. And again, this is a generic one. Sometimes you'll see the etching in the circle. I know you can't really see it. So I don't have a great enough camera that you could. But they have an oriental look to them, and in the circle would sometimes be an emblem if you didn't have initials, and that crest that's inside of there would be your crest, and that's where they know the person that has this knew you, and this is your marker that you would owe them money. So that's about it for this one. I will go over putting in the stitching in the lines with the quilting thread, so you know you have an edge to frame your piece. I'll try to leave one out that is done, because I think I have like 3 or 4 pieces, like I told you in the other one, that I'm gonna do. And so I'll try to leave them in stages and show you what they look like, and I won't make you sit here and watch me throw my buttons in my box, which I probably haven't touched these buttons in I don't know how long, because I never go through my curio cabinet. I love stitching these things. I mean, I just love creating, and I'm taking Mary's classes, or even myself designing something like this is just wonderful. I'm doing the intricate work, but I only have so much space that I put this stuff in. I will never use this. I mean, I would never take this around and use it. So it just lives in my little curio cabinet. And so I don't do as many things like that as I used to, because, like, again, it's just I have only so much space to put stuff. But I will show you how the different stages of the framing for the other pieces I have. I'm going to frame, and I get to put holes in my walls and put something in there. I'm very envious of my client that's going to be putting Miss Mary Mack on her walls. Hopefully soon I will be able to do that on mine, but I'm going to take that. And I don't know if I'll show you again before I get shipped how it looks like in the back when the professional, because see, I use wrapping paper to mine. You know, I'm just a brat, so I do that. But thank you for listening, and that's just part of that. Now we'll talk to you guys later. Love you, and I appreciate you, and I'm going to go stick my shaker box back in there. And you saw my first brattiness that I did, that I told you about before, and hopefully this time I stayed on track and didn't squirrel around too much. Did find some surprises in my box. I mean, you know, hey, open your stuff. You don't know what you're going to find. But you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you later.